Today, we will use a scientific perspective to explore the complex truth behind meteorological events. According to the latest news from the BBC website, the Icelandic Meteorological Office said on December 18th that after weeks of violent seismic activity, the Reykjanes Peninsula suddenly erupted on December 18th. The eruption occurred at Mount Haga, a volcano belonging to the Fagradal volcano a few kilometers north of Grindavik. The cracks in the ground are 3.5 kilometers long and are currently expanding rapidly. GPS measurements indicate that the magma is moving southwest or continuing toward Grindavik. Thank you for liking, leaving comments, subscribing and turning on the little bell. We will update every day. Currently, the volcano is spewing lava and smoke about 100 meters high. The Icelandic National Broadcasting Service quoted seismologist Jonsdottir as saying that the eruption point spewed magma at a speed of 100 to 200 cubic meters per second. Icelandic police said they had raised the alert level regarding the incident. After emergency personnel's assessment, the Civil Defense Department also warned the public not to approach the volcano area. Several flights were delayed at Keflavik International Airport near Reykjavik, but it remained open. Our channel has been tracking and reporting on Iceland's earthquake and volcanic eruption warnings since early November. Among them, on November 12th, we reported that 10,000 earthquakes were recorded on the Reykjanes Peninsula, reaching a peak on Friday night, and residents of the nearby rural town of Grindavik were urgently evacuated. According to the International Maritime Organization, 24,000 earthquakes have occurred on the peninsula since late October. The earthquake cluster indicates that magma has moved through the Earth's crust to 3 to 4 kilometers below the surface, and if it breaks through the surface, it will cause a volcanic eruption. At the time, the head of the Icelandic Civil Protection Agency noted that magma could erupt from anywhere in the 15-kilometer-long fissure near Grindavik. If magma erupts from the sea floor, it can produce dangerous amounts of ash. This week's eruption confirmed what officials suspected at the time. The Reykjanes Peninsula is located in southwestern Iceland and is one of the most active volcanic areas in the country. From March to September 2021, the Fagradal volcano had a minor eruption here, attracting tens of thousands of tourists to watch the spectacular lava fountain. The Fagradal Mountains are about 5 kilometers wide and 25 kilometers long. The last eruption was in the 13th century. Experts say the magma channel at that time may have been preparing for a new round of volcanic activity. Grindavik is located on the west coast of the Reykjanes Peninsula and is the main fishing port in the area. In addition to fresh fish, nearby geothermal resources also support the town's economy. The town is located about 30 kilometers south of Reykjavik, the capital of Iceland, and has about 3,400 permanent residents. During the evacuation, most residents chose to drive away and go to the homes of relatives in Reykjavik and nearby towns for temporary shelter. Geological activity in this part of Iceland had been dormant for nearly 800 years, until strong seismic activity emerged on the peninsula in early 2020. Magma surged to the surface in 2021, and then only in August 2022 and again in July this year. So far, eruptions have been in remote areas and relatively minor, posing little risk to people or infrastructure. With approximately 30 volcanic systems and more than 600 hot springs, the island nation is one of the most geologically active places on Earth. Although Iceland is no stranger to volcanic eruptions, its citizens have not experienced an eruption of this magnitude threatening residential areas since 1973, when a town of about 5,000 people in the Westman Islands was partially buried under lava. But deaths from volcanic eruptions are rare. One of the most devastating volcanic eruptions in Iceland's recent history occurred in 2010, which released large amounts of ash and halted air traffic across Europe for weeks, canceling 100,000 flights and affecting more than 10 million people. Icelandic airport operator Iceland said aviation regulations had since changed and such widespread disruptions were unlikely to happen again this time. However, if the volcano continues to erupt suddenly and massively, flights from Keflavik, Iceland's main airport, will be grounded for at least an hour to allow authorities to carry out volcanic ash forecasts. The Bureau of Meteorology said geologists' models showed a 15-kilometer-long magma intrusion underground northwest of the town of Grindavik. Officials said seismic activity has slowed since Friday, which could indicate magma is gathering toward the surface. In fact, Iceland's frequent volcanic eruptions are mainly caused by its complex geographical features. First of all, Iceland is located in the mid-ridge area in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, which is the dividing line between the Eurasian plate and the North American plate. The geological structure is in a period of active expansion. The more than 30 volcanoes on the island were formed due to the weakening of the Earth's crust caused by plate movement. Underground magma easily rises to the surface, resulting in frequent volcanic eruptions. Secondly, the central and western parts of Iceland are relatively young tertiary volcanic rock landforms, with vast volcanic plateaus and clusters of small and medium-sized shield volcanoes. The height of the plateau is between 400 to 700 meters. The largest of them, the Katla volcanic plateau, covers an area of 8,000 square kilometers. These volcanic plateaus are composed of thick layers of rhyolite lava and present gentle rolling terrain. Shield volcanoes composed of needle-shaped basalt form a concentric ring layout around the crater, such as the Hekla volcano group and the Eld Peak volcano on the Reykjanes Peninsula. At the same time, the eastern and northwest coastal areas are mainly composed of broad moraine plains and fjords formed during the glacial period, and are scattered with many small flocculated volcanic structures. Iceland is located in the mid-ridge area in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, which is the dividing line between the Eurasian plate and the North American plate. Its geological structure is in a period of active expansion. The more than 30 volcanoes on the island were formed due to the weakening of the Earth's crust caused by plate movement. Underground magma easily rises to the surface, resulting in frequent volcanic eruptions. What cannot be ignored is that the central and western parts of Iceland are relatively young tertiary volcanic rock landforms, with vast volcanic plateaus and clusters of small and medium-sized shield volcanoes. The height of the plateau is between 400 to 700 meters. The largest of them, the Katla volcanic plateau, covers an area of 8,000 square kilometers. These volcanic plateaus are composed of thick layers of rhyolite lava and present gentle rolling terrain. Shield volcanoes composed of needle-shaped basalt form a concentric ring layout around the crater, such as the Hekla volcano group and the Eld Peak volcano on the Reykjanes Peninsula. In addition, the eastern and northwest coastal areas are mainly composed of broad moraine plains and fjords formed during the glacial period, and are scattered with many small flocculated volcanic structures. The 10 to 20 kilometers wide moraine plain is composed of quartz sand, push moraine, and ice water deposits. The vast Vatnajökull Glacier is the largest glacier in Europe. The fjord formed by the retreat of the glacier is winding and winding, with cliffs as high as 100 to 200 meters on both sides. Most importantly, Iceland's most active volcanic belt is located on the Mid-Atlantic Ridge tectonic line in the east, where volcanic eruptions are most frequent. The largest of them is the Katla volcano located on the south coast, with an area of 4,500 square kilometers and a highest point of 1,751 meters above sea level. It has obvious modern volcanic landform features, relatively young lava, and primitive surface types distributed over a large area. What is distinctive is that the Hekla volcanic belt in central Iceland is located at the intersection of two volcanic tectonic lines and consists of a series of large and small volcanoes. The largest of them is Hesa volcano, with an altitude of 1,491 meters, which is a shield volcano. Due to strong crustal activity, the volcanoes in this volcanic belt are highly developed, the eruption frequency is very high, and the terrain on both sides is steep, forming a canyon terrain. In addition, the western Snæfellsjökull volcanic area and the Reykjanes Peninsula are typical representatives of the fjord-type volcanic terrain. The lava overflowing from the surface near the volcano enters the sea and rapidly cools to form dark basalt with columnar joints, which is in harmony with the bright color of the fjord. The tones create a strong contrast. It is worth mentioning that Iceland's volcanic landscape is rich and unique, with vast lava plateaus inland and magnificent fjords along the coast. The caldera after the volcanic eruption adds to the diversity of the landforms. These unique volcanic geological phenomena are all caused by crustal movements caused by Iceland being at the boundary between two major plates. Volcanic activities will continue to occur frequently in the future. There are many places around the world that are prone to volcanic eruptions like Iceland, and they are mainly concentrated in the two geological tectonic belts of the Pacific Ring of Fire and the Mid-Ocean Ridge. The Pacific Ring of Fire is located on the edge of the Pacific Ocean and is distributed in a ring. It is the most densely populated and most active area of volcanoes on the Earth. There are more than 450 volcanoes distributed in this volcanic belt, of which more than 100 are active volcanoes. The Ring of Fire in the Pacific was formed due to the collision of multiple plates such as the Pacific Plate, the North American Plate, the South American Plate, and the Philippine Plate, making it easy for magma to rise and erupt. Among them, the Japanese archipelago, Kuril Islands, Sakhalin Island, Indonesian islands, etc. in Asia are dotted around the western Pacific. Among them, Indonesia has 129 active volcanoes, making it the country with the most active volcanoes in the world. At the same time, Mexico and Guatemala in North America, Washington and Oregon in the United States, British Columbia in Canada, and other places. Volcanoes in these areas formed at the boundary between the Pacific and North American plates. Mexico's Popocatépetl volcano is the most active volcano in North America. There are a large number of active volcanoes distributed in Ecuador, Peru, Chile, Argentina, and other countries in South America. The highest active volcano in the world is located in Chile. These volcanoes were created by the movement of the South American tectonic plates. In addition, the Mid-Ocean Ridge is also a perennially active igneous rock formation zone with frequent volcanic eruptions. The Mid-Ocean Ridge is 60,000 kilometers long, stretching through the deepest trenches in the Atlantic, Indian and Pacific Oceans, dividing the ocean crust into multiple plates. There are hundreds of submarine volcanoes concentrated on the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, and magma is easy to rise and erupt. Iceland is located in the active area of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Therefore, the Ring of Fire in the Pacific and the mid-ocean ridge are the two most volcanic areas on the planet. The plate movements here are violent, resulting in a weak crust, extremely developed volcanoes, and frequent eruptions. Iceland is a typical representative of this type of geological environment with extremely developed volcanoes. When a volcano erupts, it is often easy to cause various serious secondary disasters, which requires special attention. First of all, volcanic eruptions will produce various powerful disastrous effects and trigger a variety of secondary disasters, seriously endangering the safety of human life and property. Major secondary disasters include lahars, pyroclastic flows, lahars, volcanic ash, toxic gases, etc. Secondly, lahars are one of the most destructive secondary disasters in volcanic eruptions. When the melted ice and snow, rainwater, or debris from mountain collapse are buried by a large amount of volcanic eruptions, the large amount of water contained in it will quickly vaporize into water vapor under the action of extremely high temperatures, creating a high-speed and high-temperature mud flow like an avalanche. The same rapid flow can easily cause devastating losses of life and property. What cannot be ignored is that pyroclastic flows are lava clouds in volcanic eruptions. They are composed of high-temperature volcanic ash, gas, and rock debris. When they fall, they will converge into high-speed flowing pyroclastic flows. The temperature can reach hundreds of degrees and can bury everything around you in a very short time. A lahar, meanwhile, is a mud flow formed by a mixture of pyroclastic material and water. It is formed when precipitation erodes large amounts of volcanic debris from a volcanic eruption, which can be extremely destructive to the surrounding area. Often cause greater loss of life and property than lahars. More importantly, volcanic ash will also seriously affect areas surrounding the volcano and even within thousands of kilometers. Its large accumulation can bury houses and cause building collapse. Suspended volcanic ash can also seriously pollute the air and harm the respiratory system. It is worth mentioning that a large amount of toxic gases released in volcanic eruptions, such as sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, hydrogen chloride, etc., can spread for tens of kilometers and are fatal to living things. In addition, other secondary disasters and impacts caused by volcanic eruptions include landslides, volcanic lake barrier lake burst floods, etc., which will pose a major threat to life and property in downstream areas. Therefore, volcanic eruptions can easily cause huge secondary disasters, and it is necessary to improve disaster prevention awareness and emergency response capabilities to reduce losses. When a volcanic eruption comes, being vigilant and taking quick measures to effectively escape is the key to saving your life. First of all, pay close attention to volcano monitoring and warning information. Government departments in volcanic areas will deploy volcano monitoring networks to monitor various precursor signals that may indicate volcanic eruptions, such as volcanic earthquakes, changes in ground strain, temperature, gas composition, and mountain deformation. Once monitoring data shows that the volcano may erupt, a volcano warning will be issued to surrounding areas immediately. Therefore, we should always pay attention to the real-time information on volcanic eruptions from the local government and increase our alertness in predicting volcanic eruptions. Secondly, we must be prepared for risk avoidance according to the volcano warning guidelines. After receiving different levels of volcanic warnings, you must quickly pack up necessities, food and water according to the advice of government experts and evacuation guidelines, and be ready to evacuate at any time. At the same time, prepare protective equipment such as masks, goggles, volcanic ash-proof helmets, gloves, and raincoats in advance to isolate volcanic materials during the evacuation and after arriving at the shelter. Thank you for liking, leaving a message, subscribing, and turning on the little bell. We will update the latest news from around the world every day. Continue to use a scientific perspective, exploring the complex truth behind meteorological events.